Very excited to have all of you on and joining us. My name is Matthew Gracholski. I'm the chair of the Democratic Progressive Caucus of Florida. I'm very excited to host this very important discussion today. As we all know, regardless of the decision that the State Executive Committee, Central Committee, or any other entities make regarding this topic of potentially opening our Democratic primaries in the state of Florida to NPAs, this will definitely impact our state. I am asking if you could definitely mute yourself during my PowerPoint slides, where I'll just be providing a quick update to the caucus about our activities. Please stay on mute just so that there's no disruptions during the presentation. Once again, my name is Matthew Gracholski. I use they, he pronouns, and I am the proud president of the Democratic Progressive Caucus of Florida. I wanted to welcome you all to our October meeting and also just thank our co-host, the Democratic Haitian Caucus of Florida, for co-hosting alongside us, and for our guest speaker, DNC member Sean Shaw, for also being on the meeting today. So we'll just get started. I think we may. Awesome. So here are all of our amazing chapters of the a bit of feedback of the Democratic Progressive Caucus. We are at 11 now. You'll see an addition from last month, that being Brevard County, where Vance Aarons became their president. They had an interest meeting just a few days ago that was very well attended. Despite actually the flooding happening in Titusville and some other communities in Brevard County just the day before. So I'm very thankful for all the folks who showed up to that meeting. I know it can definitely be a little bit scary, especially right now, as they see the results of environmental injustice happen in their community. So once again, there's all of our chapters, all of our presidents, and definitely feel free to shoot me an email or a text if you want to get involved with your local chapter. So once again, here's your 2025, 2027 state board. Of course, I serve as your president. Angel Montalvo is the vice president. Our secretary is Melody Kelly. Our treasurer is Mike Bonacolta. Both of them are on this call today, so big shout out to them. And then here's our general board members, Nida Ahmad, Wazel Doker, Julia Meadows, Hillary Keys, Jim Langford, and Linda Taylor. Unfortunately, we had a resignation since our last meeting. Dakin Weekly has resigned to actually relocate to Europe for quite a while. So big congratulations to him for the relocation, but wanted to flag that as well. And then here's some of our amazing committee leaders. We have several committees such as our budget and finance, campaigns, membership, and legislative. In the past few months, I've made a concentrated effort to staff up these committees and make sure that they have leaders from all throughout the state. And you'll see that in this slide and the upcoming slide. Thank you. And then Mike, if you could go to the next one. So what have we been up to as a state caucus since our last meeting last month? That's a fair question. And we've been up to a lot of things. So we tabled at Orlando and Apopka Prides. We actually walked in the Orlando Pride Parade with Congressman Maxwell Alejandro Frost, where we had signs made for the parade. I spoke at the villages representing the Democratic Progressive Caucus. An amazing turnout, a very warm reception. So thank you to the villages for letting me stop by and speak to the villages about what our caucus is up to. We endorsed Matthew Crowley last month, and I noted that we had a day of action planned for Matthew, and we did that. We got boots on the ground out in Winter Haven, Florida, did a phone bank. So we made sure that, we continue to give Matthew the exact type of support that he needs. Matthew is a para-educator, a union member, and also a Democrat running to flip a seat in Winter Haven that determines the balance of power on their local city commission. So his election is actually super important. So super excited to support Matthew. And then also our board endorsed Mira Tana for city commission out in Orlando. Her election is very, very crucial. Her leading opponent is a registered Democrat. However, he actually has his campaign treasurer as the former campaign treasurer for Byron Donalds. He is on the OUC board where he has actually hiked up utility prices, and he actually has his base as Republicans, despite again being a so-called registered Democrat. So we're supporting Mira, who is the grants manager at the city of Orlando. She is a old progressive. Let me add some names. And we are very excited to support Mira in this election because she embodies the exact type of things that we need in local government. So we once again held a interest meeting in Brevard County with the support of their local DEC chair, Jen Sizemore, who's an absolutely amazing person. Who hosted us at her local DEC's office. We were super excited to see a lot of people who have not actually been involved in their local Democratic infrastructure come out. Brevard County needs real progressive energy, and I'm super excited to see this chapter become a thing. And of course, once again, that brings us to 11 chapters. When our board was first elected, we only had 2. So we are making a lot of momentum across this whole state. I'm super excited to see that continue. So what is next? And again, it is unfortunately a lot of stuff that we are doing as a caucus in the upcoming days. So our state convention is going to be in February, February 20th through the 22nd. It's actually my 22nd birthday's weekend, so that will be fun. It'll be in Orlando, Florida. Presented on the slide are some of our proposed, signage for the conference. We have yet to vote as a body on which one to adopt, but wanted to kind of showcase you the vibe of our conference that appears to be coming up. You'll see in the top left a QR code to sign our interest form to get more information about the conference. You'll see our amazing speakers get listed very soon, the venues, etc. And if you sign that interest form that Wazel's about to drop in the chat as well, you'll get more information to your email, to your phone number, etc. And then we are hosting another phone bank for Matthew Crowley to get out the vote in partnership with his campaign, the Florida Young Democrats, Outrun Coalition, the Polk Democratic Party. It'll be on Monday, so the day before Election Day at 5:30. Once again, there is a QR code in the top left that you'll see that you can also scan to sign up to Phone Bank, and Wazel will be dropping the link in that chat as well to sign up. Once again, this is one of our 2 endorsements this election cycle, so we're super excited to support him. I wanted to quickly just answer 2 questions in the chat. First, yes, this will be recorded. I'll be dropping the link to our YouTube channel a little bit later, where you will see all of our past meetings, and this one will be posted tomorrow as well. So just want to flag that. And in terms of the state convention, we will be hosting panels, trainings about how to run for office, how to organize, etc., while also doing votes on some very important things like bylaws amendments, that new board officer that will need to be elected, that type of thing. So want to flag that too. And of course, we have one last canvas for Mira Tana, our endorsed candidate for Orlando City Council, this Saturday at 10 a.m. So please sign up if you're in the Orlando area to help get this progressive across the finish line. Cool, cool, cool. And then lastly, I believe we have our Zoran watch parties all throughout the state of Florida, which has been quite a fun project for our chapters to undertake. We have watch parties in 6 different counties, actually, and a statewide one as well. Various watch parties throughout the state are being co-hosted by amazing organizations like Rising Voices Collective, Young Dems chapters, some DECs are also participating, which is really cool to see. Local DSA chapters, etc., to celebrate this very monumental, hopeful progressive win on Tuesday. I hope I'm not jinxing myself. And yes, there's also phone banking for Zoran that you can participate in on Zoran's website. But we'll be hosting a lot of watch parties throughout the state. Hopefully there might be even more announced very soon, but super pumped up for this potential victory and the fact that Zoran's even gone this far. And you'll see all the information in the chat about where to sign up for info on these. Right. And then you can join our statewide Discord where you'll see more information about how to get involved, our upcoming events, etc. So feel free to join us. And it's been honestly a really cool tool to see our progressive folks from all across the country join together in community and talk to each other. All right. And then lastly, please sign up to participate in one of our committees. We have committees about looking at ways to amend our state platform. The last time our state caucus platform was modified was in 2018. So when I was in middle school, not to age people that might be in the room. So it's definitely been a long while. So there needs to be some modernization. Some folks want to propose some changes to the bylaws. So our bylaws committee is super important. Our communications committee still needs people to step into some leadership roles, for example. So feel free to sign up for any of our committees. Please, please, please do. It would be super helpful. All right, so I want to give the floor to one of our DNC members, Sean Shaw. He is our guest speaker for tonight. We will be dropping some links in the chat if you have missed it. And Andrea, I did want to flag, we will be getting in contact as soon as possible regarding the platform committee. So you will be hearing something very, very soon. But yeah, Sean, if you'd like to kind of tell us about yourself, and I'll pass it actually on to Mike to give some questions.
Well, I'm happy to be here. Hello, everybody. It is good to be with you today. It's been a while. You can see there, it was 18 is when I ran statewide, but I see a lot of familiar names here on the chat, so I'm happy to be here. First thing I want to do is tell you thank you for the position that your caucus took opposing open primaries. This is very personal. It means a lot, not only to me, but to those of us who believe this is the wrong way to go. You are also not alone. There are several other caucuses that we're going to get to and will come out. We just can't do it yet, and it's not public necessarily. But there's significant opposition to this, regardless of what you might be told or what you might hear. And let me say this. Can someone change my video screen so I can see the people too? I'm sorry. There we go. Okay, sorry. Let me tell you, this is not just a policy disagreement I have. This is personal. This is not just something I disagree with as a policy matter. This hurts Black people disproportionately. And so this is not just something that we can argue over a beer at a bar about, and you believe that and I believe this. This is extremely personal to me. And it is why I have re-engaged in the way that I have. I ain't getting paid to do this. I have kind of receded a little bit. You go from rising star to old person in politics pretty fast there, Matthew. So I know you're 22 now, but it's going to happen fast, brother. But I've been doing some other things. I'm on some boards having to do with the party. I do the DNC stuff. I do a lot of Democratic work in the background. But this, quite frankly, pissed me off so much that I had to get activated. Every few years, there is some sort of proposal that claims to be the silver bullet that is going to fix Democratic woes in Florida. And we always get told that if we just do this, this will be what will help fix it. Last time it was ranked choice voting. If you remember that, there was a constitutional amendment to do that. That was the silver bullet back then. Now it's open primaries. There is no silver bullet. There is no shortcut. You got to have better candidates, you got to have better messaging, and you got to have better voter registration. There's nothing that can get around that. There's no proposal that we can do that's going to get around the hard work of that. And when we were, excuse my language, when we were kicking Republicans' ass up and down Florida in the 90s, they didn't open their primaries. They didn't consistently chase all these silver bullets. You know what they did? They got to work and they had a plan. They were efficient about it. And look where we are now. We're considering doing something that they aren't even doing, something that we would unilaterally do without the Republicans doing it in a corresponding way. We are in the middle of this, whatever this, yeah, they did embrace the base. We're in the middle of this right now. Trump and this situation we're in, I find it, I'm trying to be nice here. Why would we do this now? This is an extremely divisive proposal. This is something that can fundamentally change how we do our primaries, who we have to talk to, what the message might be, who register, all these things that we might be changing in the middle of our fight for these midterms. And quite frankly, some people would think it's a fight for, quite frankly, whether we're going to have elections again in this country, free and fair elections. And now's the time that we need to be diddling around and talking about open primaries. It boggles my mind. Now, we have, when I say we, the people that oppose open primaries, we've got data. We have a report. Tonight is not going to be an extensive question and answer session by me on open primaries. I'm going to give you kind of the summary of the report and the data, and you've heard some of my thoughts. And this report and data is going to be released in full, I imagine, within the week. And when that data and report are released, we are going to schedule a Zoom seminar so that with the author of the report, with myself, with some others, Samuel from Orlando being one, and we are going to allow us the questions, whatever you want to ask. That's not for tonight. Tonight, I just want to kind of give some ideas and talk to you about it. But less than a week, you're going to have a date for a seminar on this. So I want to let you know that. Let's talk about this a little bit. Let's get into the nitty gritty. As I said, we would be opening our primaries, Republicans would not, which means they could impact our primaries. We can't impact theirs. That means Republican leaning NPAs could get all up in our stuff and there would be no corresponding way for us to do the same. And let me just say, if you want to affect Democratic primaries or you want to participate in Democratic primaries, I got a suggestion. Register as a Democrat. Why don't you? I don't understand why that is such a difficult concept and why we keep trying to figure out a way around that. Primaries, I've been in a lot of primaries in my life. They define Democratic values. Primaries define leadership and Democratic primaries, and allowing non-Democrats to choose our nominee dilutes those values. It dilutes that message that you are going to give. Listen, as I told you, I would run a vastly different campaign if I was talking to Democrats versus if I was talking to Democrats and MPAs. That's just how it is. And what that does, in my opinion, is dilutes the Democratic vote. And we're going to get into even more specifics as to who in the Democratic vote it specifically dilutes. It's confusing to voters that already are confused about this. It's confusing as to who participate in what primary. And if we are the only ones that open it and they do not, this is totally going to get confusing to the voters at a time where we don't need that. And let's talk into some specifics here as to why I take this so personal. Here's some data on NPAs in Florida. They are whiter by 10%, more male by 10%, and lean Republican. That shouldn't be any surprise to you about NPAs here in Florida. The inclusion of NPAs would shift the electorate 7% to the right and reducing strong Democrat voters by 12%. Those numbers may sound minuscule to you, but everyone on this call has been involved in primaries that are razor thin, that are very close. I was involved in one, and I barely got elected to the House by 100 votes. That's damn sure enough for you to mess with that, given those numbers that I just told you. This is the number one problem I have with it. All those other things are valid reasons, but I've been Black a long time, and let me tell you about these numbers. African-American vote share drops in every single district across the state. Black access seats in the legislature decline from 13 to 6. You heard that. Black seats go down 13 to 6. You lose about half of your Democratic Black seats in the Florida legislature. I can't tell you how insulting that is. I can't tell you how personal, not only I take that, but those of us who have worked so hard for this party, those of us that are usually at some sort of 98% approval for this party, to be shoved aside because we think NPAs might help us. That's how I feel about it. That we are being pushed to the side and we are being thrown under the bus because some think, well, maybe we can win more elections if we appeal to NPAs. I want you to tell that to a Black person's face that's going to lose half of their seats in the state legislature. So there is a reason that Minority Leader Fentress Driscoll is against this. There's a reason Minority Leader State Senator Tracy Davis is against this. There is a reason that every statewide group that you know that is Black is against this. There is a reason that I have spoken to most of the legislative Black caucus, and I can't find one person who's in favor of it. In fact, quite the opposite. There is a reason. There is a reason that this is something that we take very personal. As hard as we have worked, not only for this party, but to get to this point, and to kind of what I have heard when I've talked to people about this is just a complete disregard of what I'm saying right now. A complete kind of ignoring of why I am so mad about what it would do to the Black vote in the primary. And it reeks of tone deafness to me. And maybe I might say another word, but you caught me in a good mood today. But those of us, I've been doing political stuff in Florida probably since I was Matthew's age, and I'm 47 now. And we've done a lot of work for this party, and I've put up with a lot of ism from my own party sometimes. And I have been, denigrated and cast aside before by my own party sometimes. But my party is better than theirs, so I'm here. And my party is about the right things and the right values, so I'm here. but a proposal that would dilute those values, dilute that leadership, and dilute my place as a Democratic primary voter is something that I cannot accept or condone. And if you heard what the average NPA in Florida looks like, there's another group of people who are affected disproportionately, and that is young people and progressives. For much of the same reason that Black people's influence will be diluted in the primary, that same reason would exist for young and progressive voters. So, look, here we are again, looking for another shortcut, looking for another silver bullet, when all we need to be doing is fixing our message and fixing our candidates so we can register more voters. Now, that's hard work. I'm not saying I know how to do that. I'm not saying that I can tell you what the message ought to be and who the candidates ought to be and all that stuff. But what I can tell you is that there is no silver bullet. And so, again, I am so thankful that you all voted as you did. You're not alone. There will be coming more. And procedurally, I believe that the chair has called a meeting to take place in November. I don't know if this will be discussed or not. We will see. But it appears that there is a ramping up of the effort to do something on open primaries and to get there. So I think we're going to have to address this. So as I said, I can see in the chat that there's already some disagreement, and that's okay. That is why we asked and commissioned a report so that we can have these numbers. And this is not just opinions; these are numbers. The information I gave about the black seats isn't just Sean coming up with it. That's data that we did as a result of this because we wanted to be data driven in this. There's lots of reasons to oppose it. I think fundamentally, but there are also data and analytical reasons, I think, to oppose it. So I also want to thank the Haitian Caucus for stepping up and doing the right thing. And, there are a lot of us on the DNC and a lot of us around the state that are trying to do what we can to educate about this. This happened a little faster maybe than we anticipated, but I just want to thank you. I want to, you can hear in my voice how personal I take this. You can now maybe understand why this isn't just a policy disagreement I have. I take this extremely personal. I think I just don't know how you can do this. And I don't know how you can do it to who you're doing it to. And let me also say a lot of these silver bullet proposals that come up, they're also aimed at moderating the party and the message in some way. The silver bullet always somehow involves moderating ourselves. And I'll leave it to you all to answer whether you think that that's where we ought to be headed or not. But it always has to do with moderation because a lot of people think that that's where we need to go. I'm not one of them. So I think the way that we oppose this is kind of when we release the data, I'll release it on my email list and on my Facebook. When I release that, I would ask you all to make calls to the SEC and to your state committee people. I would ask you to send that data, and we'll have an easy 2-pager. It's the data I think is 20-some pages. We'll have an easy 2-pager that you can send around and put on your social media. And make sure that you are loud and vocal in your opposition, because what's being shoved down some of our throats is that everybody's for this and we're the only loud people that are against it. And that's not true, because I've been calling all these people, so I know it's not true. But we've got to make sure that once the data and the report and the summary is out, that we push it out to everybody and you make those calls. Maybe I'll follow up with you, Matthew, and even give you a list of who might be the actual people that we would need to call on the SEC and the specific state committee people. But this is something that I hope that we wouldn't be doing right now. We are, and we just got to be efficient with it, and so we can get to work at beating the people who ought to get beat. And that's the awful Republicans. And so if you want to get in touch with me, my email is sean@seanshaw.com. Someone could put it in the chat, SEAN@seanshaw.com. That email comes straight to me. Send me an email if you got something you want to ask, or you got something you want to just talk about, or you got something you want to yell at me about. That email is good for all three. So send it to me. And like I said, I will send out that report. It'll um, likely be within a week, and you'll also get a date. Actually, I think I might have a date for you. Let me see. I think it's the first week in. I'll let you know. It's the first week in November.
Yeah.
And can I name the source of the report, please? You'll get the report, and it'll name who's involved and who did it. It's Florida people that did it that are kind of well regarded on data and voter registration and those things. And the report will release all that good stuff, and it'll be full in its when we do release it. So I appreciate you. I know this is hard, and but welcome to politics. Welcome to Democratic politics in particular. And I also want to tell everyone on this call, thank you. Being involved at this level of the Democratic Party isn't fun sometimes, and it's hard work. But this is how you win. This is how we turn this around. It's involvement at this level and on the caucus level and all of these sorts of things. Somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to do this work. Somebody's got to help with this infrastructure. Somebody's got to put in the nights on these Zooms, and you all do it. All of you on this call, I really appreciate it. We're at a point now where we need to fix the infrastructure so that it can support anybody to win anywhere. And we've got a lot of work to do where that's concerned. And you all, the Progressive Caucus, you're where the energy is. I know that. I am not a fool. I know where the energy is. I know you already told me all the work you're doing and the branches that are opening up and all those good things. And we just got to kind of bottle that up and make sure that it gets around that Democrats are not just a softer, lighter version of the other side, that we want to kick ass on their behalf, and that we are there to fight for them and the values we all believe in. So I want to tell you thank you. You can, like I said, you can email me at sean@seanshaw.com. And you can email me specific questions about the report and all that stuff, but I hope it'll be answered when we send it all out in a week. And I don't want you to think that I'm being coy with some of this, but we have to be strategic. There's some who don't want open primaries, and we're trying to fight it. We're in a fight here. So I'm trying to do it as best as I possibly can. So thank you all. I appreciate it. And we will see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. And if you could actually say just really quickly, because I wanted to fact check some of my specific points about open primaries. But I want to quickly recognize our Haitian caucus chair, Heather Pierre Joseph, because I know that she has a limited amount of time left for some of her thoughts as well.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'm so sorry. I have an emergency Hurricane Melissa meeting. But Sean and I have not spoken at all. So, and Sean, I remember the last time we had a Democratic elected governor. I was there when Jeb Bush, Florida Initiative, won as a young girl marching in NAACP. I knew the power of the Black community. And it's so disheartening to have lost it. And to state based on facts, I'm part of the 92. So I'm speaking for the 92. If the Democratic Party does this in Florida, because you and I both know things don't just happen in politics, right? There's an end game. Whatever that is, I'm not here to discuss, because I think it's going to happen, right? Regardless whether it happens now, whether it happens in 2026 and 2028, this is a long game, wherever it's coming from. But let's talk about what's going to happen. And sometimes I have to speak in my individual capacity. I'm for the 92. The 92 are the Black women who have always carried this party and have always been disrespected and disregarded. I'm telling you now, I'm getting a little urban with it. Black women, not only in Florida, we are going to leave the party. We're taking our men and our children. So the party thinks, because I see some of the questions in the chat, they're not doing us any disservice. I'm talking for the countless of people that walk on the streets and talk to people. We talk about Black and Latinos. People feel that the Democratic Party, there are those in the Democratic Party, the system is historically racist. And that is the issue. And people don't believe you may have a Black voice. Heather Pierre Joseph may be a Black voice, but I'm not the Black voice from around the way. You hear what I'm saying? So there's different when we code switch. And so until we read people on their social and economic spaces, and that means until we have true diversity, until we have people with disability on the DNC, until we have people from around the way on the DNC, it's going to be the same thing. And when I say in regards to everything else that is happening, so if the Democratic Party, the Florida Democratic Party, and wherever else this is coming to, wants to show its true nature, as descendants of enslaved Africans, we see this, we know this, our ancestors had to overcome this, but we're a little smarter and we're going to play differently. So I will leave you there. As we discuss this, I've also, fortunate enough to see the report. It disproportionately affects Black people, the Black vote. And so those in the party, we're not debating. I just want you to remember what Hedda said. Black women, you know our power, you know our strength, and don't poke the sleeping bear. This is what we need. The last time we had a mass exodus of Black people from the party was Jesse Jackson. And so the talks already happened in the street. I'm just telling you, go ahead if y'all want to. Watch and see what Black women do. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so and I want to make it clear, the Democratic Progressive Caucus of Florida's state board voted to oppose the current proposal from Chair Freed to open our primaries specifically only to NPAs. And a lot of that was because of the exact type of discussion that has been happening on this call. My North Star for when there is a type of policy change is what the most impacted groups and most impacted stakeholders have to say. And I've had so many conversations with our Haitian American caucus, for example, where this is one of the most egregious proposals to these specific communities that are the most impacted. And another North Star to me is the fact that, as Paul Wellstone used to say, I am from the Democratic wing of the Democratic Party. And we in the state of Florida have recently seen a wave of conservative lawmakers win primary elections here in the state of Florida. Our freshman class for the state house, the previous cycle, before all this amazing work our caucus is doing now this year, was
Gosh,
one of
dude,
the most
just shut up.
conservative.
You sound like a nerd.
I'm going to mute that person. Great. But as we saw, one of the most conservative state house delegations in our past history, in the modern Florida history. And we saw some lawmakers vote for things like the Gulf of America. They voted for restrictions on ballot initiatives, for example. They voted for some of the most egregious legislation we've seen in the Florida State House. And that is a fact. And for the next legislative session, we are seeing people co-sponsor even more conservative bills already.
I certainly haven't.
Committee weeks. If that person can mute, that would be great. But I want to just flag that, we have a lot of work to do. And I don't think opening our primaries that moves about 40 seats to the right is the exact type of proposal that we need. I don't think that it will benefit progressives. I don't think it will benefit actual representation for the Florida Democratic Party. As we'll see next election cycle, we're losing a lot of champions in the Florida State House. Dr. Ana Escamani, for example, is term limited and will be running for mayor of Orlando. State Representative Angie Nixon has filed an exploratory committee to run for U.S. Senate. We are losing some of our most progressive challengers. And those are completely fine. Not in my heart to lose those folks in the Florida State House, since they fought for years representing progressive values. But we're about to see a potential rightward shift in terms of our representation in the Florida Democratic Party, the Florida State House and Florida State Senates, because those seats hypothetically could go to more conservative Democrats. And if this open primary proposal were to pass, when I was talking to local leaders in Jacksonville, they don't think Angie Nixon would have ever been elected to the Florida State House. And that is very concerning for the progressive movement. The fact that open primaries to just one side is not truly open primaries. Because if you open primaries to only one avenue, only one lane of our infrastructure and electorate in the Florida state government, you're not actually having open primaries. This is a first in the nation proposal to not allow certain things and identities like the Libertarian Party to really participate in our primaries as well, while having the facade of open primaries. This is a semi-closed, well, semi-open primary system. And that just does not work. It does not work for our Democratic caucuses, where we have a loyalty oath. And Florida's Democratic Party bylaws state that you have to be a registered Democrat. We're opening primaries up technically to NPAs while not allowing them to actually participate in the Democratic infrastructure. That is a problem. That is opening a door and then slamming it shut when they try to actually enter the House. And that just does not work at all. It's going to lead to an influx of people trying to participate in our caucuses and our infrastructure and just not actually gaining the ability to fully participate. I've heard people in leadership in other state caucus boards tell me directly, they will become an NPA if this passes, while they lost all the leadership positions that they hold in the Florida Democratic Party if they were to do that. Their voice will become actually minimized in the party infrastructure. But they think that this state party is one that can, in a way, sell out. That this state party can look at this proposal and accept it, despite almost every marginalized group in this state saying no. So that's why I want to facilitate this discussion with Sean, who has a lot of experience when it comes to past proposals, past ideas around open primaries, and want to also thank the Haitian Caucus for joining the call. Because again, this is an issue that will impact every single group in the Florida Democratic Party.
Matthew,
And
I just wanted to say again, I saw in the chat how people can kind of go against this if they're interested. You can email me. You can, when we release the data and we release the 2-pager, you can send that around to your contacts. We'll give you the people to call that are on the SEC and on the state committee. You can also contact your legislator. And I haven't found one that supports it. If you find one, email me and so I can call them. But ask your state well, I should say this: ask your Democratic state legislator if they support this or not, and that might be a good way. And I will follow up with them. But I just wanted to let y'all know that some of the ways that I might put that in the chat, how you can continue to organize against this.
Yeah, and the lawmakers that end up supporting it might be the same ones that support the Gulf of America, for example, where it would have actually benefited them in their Democratic primary elections. So want to make that clear as well. Some of the lawmakers that may support this, which we again have not heard of any, it may not be some of the best Democrats that we have seen. So I am going to entertain questions, of course. I do think that many people do have questions regarding this initiative. So wanted to open it up for Melissa to ask. And if you have any, please raise your hand. Sorry.
Thank you very much. I've been a political scientist for about 45 years. And I will say that pretty much in politics, as far as I'm concerned, nothing matters more than the rules and who the rules help and who they hurt. And I'm encouraging us to take an intersectional look rather than to say a proposal unilaterally and uniformly helps one group and uniformly and unilaterally hurts another. And of course, the other piece here about electing people from different racial communities. As we know, the Supreme Court's about to throw out majority minority districts, so it's kind of going to be a fait accompli pretty soon. So I agree with issues, as everybody says, but we also have to look at rules. Now, again, I've got no skin in this game other than being an interested, recently retired academic, and I work with the Duval Democrats. And from what I can tell, the interest here is ramping up the NPA participation rate because we know that's very low, particularly among the young. And so the idea behind it is to try to get more of them to participate in getting out voters and nominating candidates. I really don't think, you know, I've met her once, but I don't think that Nikki Fried is interested in diluting anybody's vote, nor would I say most progressives that I know are. So I'd like us to try to keep it to the question of why is this being proposed? What would be the benefits? And why aren't NPAs voting more now? That's the real question to me.
Yeah, and Sean, if you want to hop in after I kind of explain my position regarding this, I think the best way to actually get NPAs to vote the Democratic Party way is to actually reach out to NPAs and to expand our field program, because at the end of the day, in a way, every field organizer knows to actually fully have a conversation with a voter, you contact them at least 3 times. And I don't think a piece of paper where they will select potentially a nominee is actually talking to a voter or a prospective NPA. And in my discussions with a local supervisor of elections for one of the biggest counties in the Florida, in Florida, she told me directly it will double if this is passed, double the amount of money she spends on printed material costs. And that is hypothetically if she had it in her budget. So imagine that in all 67 counties. There are going to be a set amount of counties that honestly probably do not inform NPAs of this rule change if it is passed. So there actually could be an argument to say that NPAs will not be reached out to by any means if this is passed at all. Or engaged with. So I don't necessarily, honestly, fully buy the argument or idea that this is fully reaching out to NPAs or having a conversation with them. This is passing them a piece of paper and hoping that they fully educate themselves on who they're voting for. And I just don't think that's a way of proper outreach. We have conversations with voters. We try to bring them to the fold. We don't just hopelessly give them, a ballot and hope that they fill out in the way that they think is best. So that's ultimately kind of how I would describe that problem. I think that we really need to communicate with voters more. We need to do more direct voter contact, and we need to ensure that our canvassing operation across the state is the best that can be. And I know FDP is trying its hardest to do that, but we need to continue to expand our caucus's outreach as well. You just mentioned youth voters. And I am on the board of the Florida Young Democrats as its secretary as well. And our caucus, quite frankly, and I'll be the first to say it, we don't get money from the Florida Democratic Party. We don't. We are the main organization that is supposed to do outreach to youth voters. Well, we can't even reach our Florida Young Democrats. And we don't receive that budget allocation that we were supposed to have of $100,000 because that is currently not being fundraised for. And it is October. That was supposed to be in our 2025 state budget of $100,000 allocated to the Florida Young Democrats. And that goes for other outreach buckets as well. So I think we need a state party that really focuses on empowering and amplifying our outreach organizations and our caucuses to make sure that they have the money and the resources to actually do that outreach, bring NPAs to the fold instead of just continuing to think that we can just do it through a ballot piece of paper. Lydia, I know that you have had your hand raised off and on. Lydia is one of our amazing DNC members as well, serving alongside Sean.
Thank you, Matthew. Good evening, everyone. And thank you, Sean, for once again being a warrior regarding this topic for our state here in Florida. I did want to just make a couple of comments, and one of them, I'm against it. Okay, I'm one of the many DNC members that you all elected on the same day that you elected Chair Freed that are against this. However, I want to also give you a little bit more information. I heard Matthew mention about the cost that this will be to our candidates who are already struggling to raise money in the primary. But I also want to just ask the question that was just raised in the chat. Why are we not getting money for our outreach? Well, they say we don't have the money for those outreach programs. But if we do this, the legal costs could run upward of $500,000 in legal fees. Where's that money coming from? And I'm asking you because when I asked our chair, she has not told us where that money is coming from. Who's backing this program financially? Who's backing this initiative financially? I have a problem that I'm a DNC member and I'm on the Budget and Finance Committee to represent you guys as a body, and we don't know where the funding for this initiative is coming from. We were supposed to be more transparent this cycle, more inclusive, and a lot of this stuff is being done behind closed doors. We heard about it at the Central Committee. The DNC members talked to Nikki about this at the Central Committee, just like everyone else. We weren't told ahead of time. And I'm not saying that we're supposed to be privy to everything ahead of time. I'm just saying that you're going to call us as DNC members and ask us questions, and we're in the dark just as much as you guys are. So my questions to you, if you can get an answer, is who are we benchmarking ourselves against? I believe it was Melissa that indicated, why are we doing this? I would think that the reason we would do something like this would be to get the MPAs to stay with us in the general, but we don't have the data that shows that they're going to stay with us in the general. So why do we want them in the primary if they're not going to vote with us in the general? So just a few things to talk about. And I thank Sean very much for just reminding us that this state, once upon a time, was a Democratic state. And the Republicans didn't open up their primaries to get back to elected office. Let's do the work. It's hard, but it's good work because we have real issues. And at a time where our society is struggling, and we have people without jobs, and we have people in shutdowns, and people that can't eat and pay their bills, we are focusing on this, which is a made-up issue for us when we should be dealing with issues about redistricting in Florida and those things that we should be really out there fighting for right now. This is not necessarily a fight that has to not happen. It just shouldn't happen right now. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, and Lydia just raised a great point. We do have redistricting across the aisle, happening right now, where the Republican Party is trying to rig our congressional elections. And we have proposals currently in the state Senate to make sure that we don't have mid-decade redistricting proposed by State Senator Chev Jones. We will see voting rights legislation authored by State Senator Lavon Bracey Davis and State Representative Rashawn Young to really fight for expanding actual voter access. And I think that really should be one of the biggest priorities that we do fight right now. And I want to make it clear as well. The Democratic Progressive Caucus of Florida, in its platform, describes that it does support open primaries and that describes supporting ranked choice voting. But this, again, is not a full open primary. This is for one side to allow one certain identity to participate in our primary elections. Say what you will, true open primaries include allowing Republicans to vote in our primaries. It includes allowing Green Party members, hell, even libertarians in our primaries. That's what an open primary is. So again, like how many people referenced in the chat, this is not an open primary. And this also does not lead us towards actual election reform of things like ranked choice voting, for example. So I do want to encourage that point as well when we discuss this concept, because again, this just isn't what open primaries are. Jim?
Yeah, first I want to thank Sean for joining us tonight, and amazing presentation. And then I want to piggyback a little bit on what Lydia said about the Central Committee meeting. When Chair Freed brought this up about 10 minutes before the end of the meeting, after we had discussed the budget for a long period of time, she just kind of threw it out there. It took everybody by surprise. The way it was presented was that, this is a consideration that she was entertaining, and that she had some kind of an anonymous backer that was willing to spend a bunch of money if we agreed to do this. I think that anonymous donors are a huge red flag. I don't think that it's one thing if she had approached the Central Committee or the Executive Committee and said, we have this particular donor who's wanting to spend this much money to see if we can win. My first question is, why aren't they spending that much money to help us win now, if they're that interested? And then secondly, if we know who it is we're talking about, then we can do some research and find out, what exactly is their motivation. But anonymous donors, never a good idea. And then there's the cost of how much this would cost in order to take it to the legislature and then to the courts. And Nikki was very, upfront about the fact that it would cost about, I think Lydia said, about $500,000, about $500,000. So we could be taking that money and spending it on something much more productive, I think. The State Executive Committee members for Orange County were presented with all of the data that Sean has been talking about. He is right. The data indicates that this would shift the Democratic Party to the right about 10 points from what I remember, which would not help the Progressive Caucus or the Progressive Movement, would not help young voters. It completely, I don't want to use the word disenfranchises, but it does dilute the Black female vote, number one, then the Black male vote, and the Progressive vote, which is obviously not what we are here for. We are, we want the party to shift further to the left, not to the right. And so I think the whole proposition is, has all kinds of fallacies. And the one thing that just absolutely amazed me was that the main demographic that would benefit from this is affluent white men. That's not the base of the Democratic Party. Sorry, guys. So I strongly oppose this. I agree with Sean. I agree with Lydia. I agree with Matt. And when we were elected back in February, I had never dreamed that this was going to be a subject of discussion. And I think the fact that we have not had an opportunity on the Executive Committee or the Central Committee to discuss this, openly with Chair Freed so that we can express our opinions about this has really made it more complicated. And so now we're looking at sometime, in March that we're going to have an executive committee meeting. And that would not be the time to be switching horses in the middle of the stream. We're going to be too far into the election cycle. So this is really not a subject that we should be broaching at this time. So that's all I wanted to add. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Jim. So I'm going to pass the moderating torch over to my friend, Mike Bonacolta, who's the treasurer of the state caucus and the immediate past president. Just want to flag I'm passing the torch over to him to continue the discussion while I go to the bathroom.
Thank you, Matthew. So yeah, Jim, excellent question, excellent point. And I think it's important to add to that when you spoke about progressive voices and kind of shutting out progressives in this, because this is a progressive caucus state meeting. We also need to remember that progressive policies are policies that benefit everyone economically. It is economic equality. It is supporting people in that matter. And so when we're talking about shutting out progressive voices, we're not just talking about shutting out progressive voices. We're talking about shutting down the possibility of getting real economic equality policy passed in the state of Florida. And that is critical to so many people in this state. So we have a few more people that have their hands up. Sadie, you are next.
Hello. Yeah, I know Matthew just stepped away, and I do appreciate hearing the other perspectives offered on this presentation. But I wanted to see if, like, the Democratic Progressive Caucus of Florida, if you guys would be interested in having a presentation with the other side or like perspective, a wider perspective on the issue. And especially, I know someone brought up the redistricting, but with that kind of being in the picture, kind of a presentation including about that as well.
So no one gave us any sort of presentation from the opposing side, from the side of opposing open primary in this case. But sure, if someone would like to send along a presentation, that'd be fine. But no one spoke to us from the side that had that did this. So yeah, go ahead and send that along. We've made our decision, and I think that there's enough experience in our board to speak to that and to understand the politics of the state of Florida. But obviously, if someone would like to send along a presentation of the pro side to this, we'd be happy to look it over.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll reach out then. But thanks.
All right. Thank you. Lydia?
Yes, I see a lot of people in the chat and also people that are speaking, asking about the process. And right now, in the meeting in June at Leadership Blue for Central Committee, we were originally told that this was going to go to resolutions. And then the next thing we heard is that no, they were going to take it to the State Executive Committee. If you guys read your emails closely, we are not having a State Executive Committee meeting on the 9th. It is a briefing, and it is going to be webinar style, which to me means that we're not going to have a whole lot of, back and forth and opportunities to do a lot of speaking. We will have a Central Committee meeting, and maybe it will come up in that meeting as well, because the Central Committee will be meeting on the 9th as well. So I would suggest be prepared, talk to people, understand parliamentary procedures. And also, if you have people that are on the Central Committee, your district, your congressional district chairs, your chair appointments and those things, talk to them. Talk to them and just let them know what you feel. And as it has been stated, at this point, it appears as though we will not be having a state executive committee meeting until sometime in the first quarter of next year. Especially considering that we're not having the briefing until November 9th. doesn't give us a whole lot of time throughout the rest of this year, with Thanksgiving and Christmas and Hanukkah and all of the different holidays coming up, to do it at the end of this year. Believe me when I say, as our DNC members, we have been very vocal with the chair regarding this. I have been pushing that we have in-person meetings. We have not had one state executive committee meeting all year long. And normally we have at least one, usually two. Don't understand why we did not have one at Leadership Blue since we had Central Committee. We usually have them both on the same days. But that's neither here nor there. What I'm saying to you all is that we are not the average Democrat in Florida. We're part of the infrastructure. So make sure you understand the rules. If you don't understand the rules, feel free to call me. I'll put my phone number in the chat. My number is 813-205-5012. If you don't know anything about me, you didn't know me before you voted for me, or you didn't vote for me, I am the former first vice president, the former president of the state Black Caucus. That was 8 years there. Former judicial council chair. I know the bylaws really well. So if this is something that you're not understanding the process, contact me, contact one of our other DNC members. I am always open to speak to anyone about anything that has to do with our democratic process. So if you are a member of this body, State Executive Committee, Central Committee, one of our caucuses, feel free to give me a call. I'm not here to tell you that you better vote this way, you better vote that way. I am here to make sure that whatever we do, just like when we're knocking on that door, that we ask those people what's important to them and give them the information to make them have an informed decision when they vote. We want educated voters. And at this time, I believe that this is a, a stance that we're, a issue that is dividing our party. And I keep hearing, why are we doing this? And then you have people that say, well, we should do this. Right now, we're in survival mode in this country, you know? And as Sean has stated, we have data that's specific to Florida. Because another thing that I've asked, I have a marketing background, so I'm always asking, who are you benchmarking us against? There are like five states in this one state. You can't compare us to Georgia. You can't compare us to Wisconsin. What is going on here in this state? And we have to know that we're making the best decisions for the state when we do this. And there was another question that I got earlier via email that asked, if we open up the primaries statewide, does that mean we also open up the primaries locally? And yes, it does mean that. It does mean that. So we just need to make sure that we're giving each other grace, that we're allowing ourselves to educate one another about the process. Okay. And thank you again. And I'll put my phone number in the chat.
Thank you so much, Lydia. And it's important to remember the Democratic Progressive Caucus, we took a stance on this, and our board was unanimous in this. And we're holding this town hall meeting to kind of discuss the reasons why not only we believe that this is a bad proposal at this time and in the way that it is proposed, but also the fact that there are other communities. That's why we welcomed other groups in with us to discuss this issue about why they also feel like this is an issue that affects them and why this issue is something that is going to be a negative moving forward for our party and for our elections. And so I just want to make sure that's clear. And so for this forum, what we're looking for is we're looking for questions as to possibly why, or questions about the issue. Our next person that has their hand up is Neil. Neil, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Neil Verma, member of the Florida Democratic Party, Clay County chapter. I just had a quick question concerning demographics. Is there any data as far as how this proposal would affect the Latino community in terms of, their votes, their representation, so on and so forth? Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not sure if Sean is still on.
No, Sean dropped off, Mike.
Sean dropped off. So I'm not exactly sure, particularly on that issue. I'm sure, depending on based off of what I've heard from other caucuses, that yes, it probably would be. Is there any questions on the Progressive Caucus's stance on the issue? All right, I have no further hands up. All right, is Matthew back on yet? All right, Matthew is not back on. I think that means that at this point we are going to end.
Mike Matthew is on.
Oh, he is on?
Yes, sorry,
He is
Mike.
back,
No
yes.
worries.
Just rejoined.
Sorry about that.
So thank you all once again for hopping on and being a part of this discussion. I know, of course, this is something that will persist in the upcoming months. As previously noted, we do not have a vote on this happening this calendar year. From what I have heard, we may see one early next year, of course. So we'll continue these types of discussions. Thank you for hopping on. I'll drop my email in the chat. It is president@progressivefl.org. If you want any questions, of course, Sean has mentioned that he will be releasing data that he has. I see Tom Wells has kind of dropped that he can also provide data that kind of supports the open primary side. But once again, our caucus formally has taken the stance to oppose the current proposal by Chair Fried. But once again, thank you all for being on. I'll send a recap email that kind of discusses what was said at this meeting, but also how to continue to be engaged in our caucus, our infrastructure, and the work that we have, because we have elections next Tuesday. We may have runoff elections in December. And while, of course, this is an important discussion, our ultimate goal is to elect more progressives to office. And we can do that this Tuesday. We can do it in December. And we have other special elections that are coming up all throughout the state. So let's continue the grind to elect our progressives. Of course, this was a divisive issue, the issue of open primaries. But at the end of the day, we're all Democrats. At least I hope we are. We're all progressives. At least I hope you are, if you are on this call. And we need to ultimately fix in on the laser focused mission that we need to have, electing progressive Democrats. So thank you all so much for being on. I'll drop my email again in the chat. But yeah, thank y'all.